Welcome to Pathways, Becoming Trauma Responsive, where we explore trauma through a compassionate lens, discover how these experiences affect each of us differently, and dive deeper into what it really means to become more trauma informed. I'm your host, Dr. Elizabeth Meeker, Senior Director of the New York State Trauma Informed Network and Resource Center, funded by the New York State Office of Mental Health. The network advances a collective understanding of trauma, wellness and healing, and trauma-informed practices in action. Well, it is my pleasure to welcome Julie Chapus to this episode of Pathways Becoming Trauma Responsive. Welcome, Julie.
Thank you.
I would welcome you to start off by just introducing yourself to our audience and maybe talk a little bit about your school, Miss Julie's School of Beauty, and tell us a little bit about what it is and what you do.
Sure. So my name is Julie Chapus, as Elizabeth just said. I am an LMSW. I received my master's in social work back in 2001. And what I noticed working in the social work field was, especially the clients that I was working with, a lot of them had prostitution records, a lot of them had drug possession records. And, in a clinical setting, you can bring people in, you can do your treatment, you can do the intake, you can develop this whole great plan with your client. You can even put them into resources like safe houses, right? And the thing that I saw time and time again was you can't live there forever. And at some point, we have to look at jobs. What jobs can you get? Especially with clients that had their children taken away, CPS is involved. It was very challenging. That what I noticed was the jobs that were available were unskilled minimum wage. And it was heartbreaking every time, Elizabeth. I would have to sit down with somebody and say, this is not going to allow you to get your children back. You have to be able to keep a roof over your own head, in order to provide for a child. It just, you have to be financially stable. And I truly never saw somebody be able to get that and break out of that cycle. So time and time again, what I would witness is somebody that was doing so well, somebody that entered into their recovery, somebody that was working their program and really doing a lot of internal work, but the external barriers were so great that it forced them back into the same situation that got them into trouble in the first place. And I will tell you that that was extremely heartbreaking. So I didn't stay in the field very long. I left it. And what I was realizing and noticed was in the cosmetology field, there was a lot of money being made.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized that background checks weren't really holding people back. Now, the issue that I was also seeing with that is you can't really go to a trade school like that with a criminal record. And so when I started to really dive in, and it helped that I was married to a lawyer, and we started looking at, how does somebody overcome this challenge or this barrier of a drug possession record or a prostitution record? And, the certificates of good conduct, and there's also certificates of rehabilitation.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but you kind of need a lawyer to walk you through this. And so when I started to realize that there are actually ways to navigate this, I decided myself to go to cosmetology school, because even though I knew that this idea could work, I needed to prove that it could work. I'm not going to ask somebody to get into something that I wasn't willing to walk through myself. So I did go in with my social work degree to cosmetology school.
Uh-huh.
And I put myself through the entire program, 2016 to 2017. And I received my cosmetology license. And then I was like, okay, this is great. I got the license. I know what the school's about now. Now I need to work for 5 years in this industry, because I need to figure out how much money can one actually make doing hair. Um, you know, what is the dynamic between you and your clients? Are people going to be running background checks on me? Are people going to be asking me all kinds of, questions about my past. So I wanted to know, what was somebody going to experience in this field? And so I did work for those 5 years. I opened up a little shop called Miss Julie's Hair Studio at the
Uh-huh.
time. And I built it up to a little 5-star salon, and it was only me. I was the operator, the stylist, the everything, the hair cutter, the colorist. But it challenged me because I've never done this work.
Hmm.
I really was enjoying it. I enjoyed what I enjoyed most, and you'll appreciate this as a clinician, Elizabeth, was I liked being able to talk to people, and you didn't have to do all the paperwork that goes with it and get insurance involved.
Right.
You could just make a real decent connection
Yep.
and help people feel better about themselves and make them look better about themselves. And you feel great, they feel great. And it was wonderful.
Yeah. Yes, yes. It's
It's
funny that you
wonderful.
said that because I often joke with my hairdresser that she and I had the same job.
Yes. We call it therapy in the,
Yeah.
in the cosmetology industry.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. So, yeah, that it was a lot of fun for me, actually. I really enjoyed working for those 5 years for the hair studio. But after the 5 years, I knew, okay, I did this for a very specific reason. I did not
Right.
do this because I wanted a career change. I did not do this for myself because I needed more money than what a social worker could make.
Uh-huh.
I really did this because I knew that this could truly be a path forward for the clients that I saw time and time again, never able to break out of that poverty cycle.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing like kind of the origin story of the school because what I hear through the story is that whether you knew it or not at the time, you from the get-go there was this trauma informed lens. Like you were just like, I think this could work, but like I want to make sure I walk the path first before I
Yep.
ask someone else to do that, especially someone who is vulnerable and is looking to you as someone who would be a trusted partner, and the best way for you to be a trusted partner was to go through it yourself. So I really just I never knew that about
Yeah.
kind of that long vision that you had, so thank you for for sharing that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So, I know from previous conversations that we've had that you have a strong commitment to trauma-informed practices and have been really intentional about weaving that into the school. And could you talk a little bit about why that's been important to you?
Well, I absolutely have, Elizabeth, and you hit the nail on the head. You're working with very vulnerable populations, right? People that have maybe had very horrible that we talk about the ACEs, right? The adverse childhood experiences, people that were maybe born into poverty, people that were maybe born into, somebody that was an addicted household. Like,
Hmm.
people had challenges of, their parents were in and out of incarceration. And so when you look at a client that has already had to overstep so many barriers just to get to the place they were, even though it wasn't a great place.
Hmm.
It was still like, wow, you got to do things that you never thought or wanted to do, with yourself, with your body, with, just to try to figure out where can I stay tonight, you
Hmm.
know? And so I did not want to. Yes, absolutely. I was not going to tell somebody, well, I have the answer for you because I think it's a great idea.
Right.
Like, no. No, no, no.
Uh-huh.
Well, I wasn't going to operate that way. So I really did. I truly wanted to walk the path. And then I wanted to be able to truly look at, what have our students overcome. And so what I really started doing was looking at the programs that were in the area already.
Hmm.
This is how I got hooked into CCSI. This is how I got hooked into the Trauma Informed Network. And I started seeing like some of the safe houses that are here with the residential programs that are 2 years plus.
Uh-huh.
And so I was like, wow, this is awesome. Because when I started to really look at when does that skill building need to happen, it truly needs to happen when somebody's in a stable environment.
Right.
We know this. no, I mean, even in grade school, children are not going to learn if they don't feel safe, if they're not fed, if they
Hmm.
don't know where they're laying their head at night. Their mind is not at all able to concentrate on actual learning.
Right.
You know, we
Right.
know this. Um, and so I felt like I really wanted to take those things from even the grade school level and
Hmm.
bring them up to what I'm doing. And I'm like, are they being fed? Do they have a safe place to lay their head at night? Are they going to be worried about paying all kinds of bills and
Hmm.
working with different systems in order to make it through this program? Because I know that would be very, very challenging. And the last thing I wanted to do, Elizabeth, was set people up to fail.
Hmm.
You know? And so what our program has actually become is an incentive for folks to
Hmm.
actually stay in their program, go to a program, get into a recovery program, start working with, your psychologist, your
Hmm.
psychiatrist, get the medication management going on, get into some therapy, and so what we did was when I looked at those kinds of people that have not only done the internal work, but are actually looking at how do I overcome this external barrier? Well, I know without our program, it's pretty rare that they're going
Hmm.
to be able to, break
Right.
out of that. So what I started doing was just letting the organizations know if you have somebody that has been with you for at least a year, they've been in recovery for at least a year, you've seen the internal work that they've done, because we do work with sharps and we do work with chemicals. We can't bring in people that are actively using. It's just
Hmm.
not safe for
Right.
anybody.
Right.
And so I really was looking at this through a lens of how do I keep myself safe, first of all? How do I keep all of my students safe? And how do we really, in group setting, like if anybody's ever done group therapy here, you know that your commitment is to the safety of the group.
Right.
And if you let one person in that is not really working at that level and has that accountability to also want to be a part of this supportive culture,
Hmm.
that could derail so many different things.
Hmm.
And so I really felt like I needed to protect that integrity of
Hmm.
the group. And so, yeah, so I just started looking at, okay, what's the best way that I can do this to make people feel, that there is hope,
Hmm.
there is a way out of the cycle that you feel stuck in right now. And, I also need to see on your part that you want to get better. You
Right.
want things to change. You don't
Hmm.
want to live like this. And so, really, I was kind of thinking about those two things because I could tell you right now, I had clients 20 years ago that I felt like they would have made it if my school existed back then.
Right. Right.
100%.
Yeah, yeah. It makes me think of like, what I've learned about hope theory and that you need both kind of the will and the way. Like,
Yes.
right. So people want to do that, but like you were saying 20 years ago, you saw there was not really a viable way for people to move out. There wasn't a job that they could get that would provide a livable wage that would then allow
Right.
them to support themselves and their family and all of those things. And so creating both kind of that, kind of when someone's ready in their own recovery to be like, yes, I'm ready to take this next step. Here's a way that they can do it in a supportive environment.
Yeah. And the reason why I do get questions sometimes, like, what if somebody doesn't want to be a hairdresser, Julie? What if they don't want to stand in a salon all day? I say the cosmetology license is still worth it because with a cosmetology license, Elizabeth, I don't know if people know how many doors open with this. You don't have to be just a stylist all the
Hmm.
time. You can get into nails if you wanted to. You can do the aesthetics. You could do hair.
Hmm.
You can do waxing. Like it's an umbrella of the in salon services, but there's another whole side to this where there's its product development side and
Hmm.
sales representative sides.
Mm.
So I know people that have their cosmetology license and they literally went straight to work for Paul Mitchell. They literally went straight to work for Wella,
Hmm.
Joico, and they learn the product line and then they are flown out to different salons and spas to teach about the product line. And
Right.
so and that it's incredible. Like
Mm-hmm.
to see the doors that can open. And let's take somebody that maybe has a real mind and knack for science. You
Mm-hmm.
can always get into that product development side. I mean, this is the beauty industry. We
Right.
have new products coming out on a daily basis,
Right,
really.
right,
No,
right, right. So there's multiple pathways. It's not
there
just kind
are.
of this, like you
Yeah.
do this and now you're going to be a hairstylist and that's it.
Right.
So
Yeah.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
great. That's great.
Yeah.
Now, I know from previous conversations we have in terms of kind of how you've designed the school, you've intentionally built in a lot of flexibility into the program because you recognize that the individuals coming are working with different programs, not just in your school. And so could you speak a little bit about that and your kind
Yeah.
of thought process between in terms of that design?
Yes, I absolutely can. Knowing that the population that we do serve is a lot of them are working in recovery. A lot of them still want to see their therapist. A lot of them are still working with psychiatrists for, medication management. And so most cosmetology schools run like 9 to 4:30 Monday through Friday. And I'm just like, that's not going to work for my
Hmm.
clients.
Hmm.
I did not want to make my school something that would impede on their health, truly.
Hmm.
And so when I sat down with survivors, I said, listen, I have an idea, but I don't know if it's a good idea. I need to
Hmm.
hear from you.
Hmm.
What is your voice is in this? Like, if I'm going to develop a program for you, I need you to guide me and tell me, what do you feel like is going to be realistic? What do you
Hmm.
feel like you could actually do Monday through Friday, and what would be beneficial? And across the board, they all told me that they needed at least 1 year in recovery. That's
Hmm.
how I came up with that one
Okay.
year. They said that they would have never been able to do a program even like 6 months in. It just
Hmm.
would not be, that wouldn't have been good for them. So I said, okay, noted. So we'll make that a stipulation that 1 year at least.
Hmm.
And then it was, some of them do work with CPS. Julie, I want to be out of school when my kids get out of school because I want these supervised visits. I want to be able to go see my child.
Hmm.
Okay, so school gets out at what, 2:30, 3 o'clock? We'll go 9 to 2:30, and
Hmm.
then it just became like, can you actually do this? Can this happen? And I'm like, well, it's going to stretch things out because normal cosmetology schools, you usually get your license in about 7 months. We're stretching ours out to 10 months.
Hmm.
And they didn't care. They were like,
Yeah.
if I can be out at 2:30 Monday through Friday, we're
Yeah.
good. I'm like, absolutely. And so, of course, I know, like, if somebody gets ill, sometimes they might have to miss a day. I certainly did not want them to be missing their hours. So I do have that flexibility during the week that if somebody needed to stay later, maybe
Hmm.
till 4:30, they could, but that
Hmm.
would be if it works for their schedule and what day is best.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I just love and appreciate just how you, from the get-go, included the voice of the people that you were hoping to serve. And you, again, you weren't designing for people, you were designing with people, and you really, incorporated that in, and that you built in flexibility, and knowing that it's not one size fits all, so that people could have some choice, and, know that if they, if they needed to go to an appointment or something like that, they're not jeopardizing their ability to complete the program, which relieves so much pressure, because I know for a lot of people who are multi-system involved, there's not always that coordination across systems, so they're getting multiple demands placed on them, and it's hard to meet all the expectations sometimes.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah,
agree. Yeah,
yeah.
I really wanted to make something that was going to not only, end with a cosmetology license where once
Hmm.
you give them that license, you can work no questions asked.
Right.
That alone is amazing. But to be able to have a program that actually works with our students, and even, I want to give you a story. When I was in cosmetology school, I saw it be very punitive,
Hmm.
Elizabeth, to be honest with you. I mean, you have to understand that I had that social work background and that
Right.
training, but what I saw was, there was somebody that didn't have their own car. They were on the bus. They
Hmm.
had to use the bus system.
Right.
They were a single mom, two children at home, like really little, had to figure out daycare, and there were multiple days when she missed the on time bus and had to take the bus 8 minutes later.
Right.
And so she would walk in sometimes 15, 20 minutes late, and
Mm-hmm.
she was consistently sent home.
Oh,
You know,
wow.
you can't stay here. You're late, go home. You're gonna miss all your hours for the day. When you
Mm.
feel like you can get here on time, then you can come back.
Wow.
I mean, and I'm just like sitting here looking and knowing,
Yeah.
what the challenges were. Like, if any of us have had children, like,
Right.
a 2 and 3 year old, sometimes accidents happen.
Right.
Right
Yeah.
as you're walking out the door, and I was like, crap, we got to go change your pants. We
Yeah.
got
Right. Yeah.
it happens, it
Yeah.
just does. And
Yeah.
I'm like, we have to be able to take these things into consideration. And instead of just being so punitive with people, why don't we find out what was the challenge in getting here? Like, why are you 20 minutes late? Can you explain to me what your morning looked like?
Yeah.
And if you can find like a barrier that's there all the time, like, my 3-year-old consistently has like anxiety and throws up right before we leave,
Right.
okay, well, then we know this now. So let's figure out a support plan where we do, categorize you coming in like a half hour later.
Mm-hmm.
And, maybe you have to stay a half hour later. Who knows? You know what I mean?
Right.
But we'll
Yeah.
work it out. We can work with that. That's not something where you have to miss all of your 5 hours for the whole day because you came in 20 minutes late.
Right. Yeah.
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 It
And
doesn't
go ahead.
Sorry. I was going to say, it doesn't take away like accountability from folks
Right.
either. Like, you understand and know once you've been in the field long enough, when people are kind of trying to manipulate things.
Right. Yeah.
And so, but we work around that as well. And, we really do kind of work with the supportive systems that are in place with our students. We talk to the
Yeah.
therapist. We have that, you know, like, of course our student signs informed consents, but we also do release of information.
Mm-hmm.
So, if I know that a student is maybe trying to get away with some things, and
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
that would be a time for me to talk to the student and call the therapist and
Right.
say, hey, this is what we're running into. I think that this could just use a little bit of work around it.
Right, right, right. It's
So we
really
look at it.
recognizing that all behavior is an expression of an unmet need. So,
Yeah.
right. And so trying to think about what need is trying to be met. And maybe that person that hasn't figured out a more adaptive way yet to
Yep.
kind of meet that need and like approach it as, kind of this is a problem that we can work through together.
Yes,
Versus
exactly.
taking that more punitive approach. And, as you were talking, it just made me think about while your school is a therapeutic school by design, there's lessons that you're learning that hopefully can be shared more broadly with, cosmetology schools or other types of schools as well. Like having that curious mindset about like if you have the student who's coming late, like someone doesn't sign up for cosmetology school because they want to not do it, like right, like
Right.
so if someone is late in that way, like how do you ask those curious questions as you kind of illustrated and really think through like, okay, how can we come up with a solution that's going to work
Yeah.
and get you kind of towards the goal that you have in mind. So, I would be hopeful that the lessons learned could be shared really broadly.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
hope so too, Elizabeth. I definitely know after being in regular school myself, like, yeah, we we can do things differently.
Yeah,
Better
absolutely.
way. There is a
Yeah.
better way. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm wondering if you could just talk a little bit about like your vision. You talked about like where you started and kind of where you are in the process of launching your school, but like what is your hope and vision for the future?
Yeah, so the hope is, I've got to prove the pilot program this first year.
Right.
So we are starting with 10 students, and I am the director, the teacher, the
Uh-huh.
everything in this
Okay.
first 2 years. But we're also, we teamed up with Brockport College, and so
Uh-huh.
they're also going to be doing some research for us, like pre-program, during the program, and then post-program. And
Nice.
we're looking at things like the hope levels, like the
Yeah.
poverty levels,
Uh-huh.
our symptoms of anxiety being alleviated in this therapeutic school.
Right.
And we just kind of wanted to look at, is this actually truly a beneficial program?
Right.
And if it is, what I would love to see is, maybe other people catching on like, wow, Julie, you did all the hard work. You know exactly what has to be done in order to set a school like this up.
Hmm.
So now we can actually help other folks in other areas
Right.
be able to, open up programs like this.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah.
And I love how you're really taking the time to kind of measure and like demonstrate that this, has impact. And that also gives the ability to adjust and adapt as you go, as well. Because I'm sure there'll be learnings along the
I'm
way.
sure. I'm sure. Yes, I am positive about
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah. But what I hear is you have a very open and learning mindset, like, right?
Yes.
That's kind of how you've approached this work. So I
Yeah,
appreciate
for
that.
sure.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
So, as we kind of come towards the end of our conversation, what is something that you'd really just want to share with our audience about, the importance of this work to you, and kind of what your hope would be for kind of our broader world, maybe in this
Yeah.
moment in time, and kind of in promoting these types of practices.
Well, sure. My whole worldview kind of is people matter, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like everybody matters. And it's not, to me, it doesn't seem right and or fair in our world that somebody might have been born into an amazing family and somebody may have been born into a mess of a situation.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that these two people are not afforded the same opportunities because of what they were born into,
Mm-hmm.
something that they could not control,
Right.
something that happened to them.
Mm-hmm.
And I just feel like we have to be able to, it's a blessing that there are people that come from very good homes. That's amazing. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
so thankful that we have people that are like that. But I also know that there are people that struggle from the time they come out of the womb.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, okay, why can't there be more resources? Why can't there be more help just to give somebody a leg up from what they were born into? I don't know, Elizabeth.
Mm-hmm.
I've always, it's just on my heart. I feel like for me, I'm a praying woman,
Mm-hmm.
and I truly believe that God created us. And I truly believe that He wants everybody to have like enjoyment and
Mm-hmm.
life to the full, right?
Right. Yeah.
And I'm like, we only can get there if we all are able to work together
Mm-hmm.
and see what some of these challenges are and how can we help instead of
Right.
having that selfish mindset of what can I do for me.
Right.
I think that if we can get outside of ourselves and look at the people around us and say, wow, how can we build something great together?
Together. Oh, I love that. Yeah. I think that's a perfect place to end. How can we build something great together? Can't say it any better than that. So, Julie, I just want to thank you for your time, your passion, your commitment to the work. I wish you all the best with the launch of the school and the pilot, and look forward to getting updates about how it's going and what you're learning along the way. So, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth. I appreciate the time with you today.
Thank you for joining us today. Please visit our website, traumainformedny.org, for additional trauma responsive resources, events, and training opportunities. Subscribe to our podcast to be notified when our next episode is released.